Welcome to the fourth installment of Down to Earth Project Management, where we will be covering the differences between Waterfall and Agile. Now, trying to keep this a short video, well, because the whole discussion of what is Waterfall and what is Agile and the differences between them could go for a really long time. So I'm just going to cover some key highlights. So first up, Waterfall is the traditional project management style. It's where the project sponsor goes and says, I need this thing done. And for example, I need a car built. And I, as a project manager, along with the business analyst, will ask details like how many doors do you want and how many wheels, etc., and so forth. Do you want to have a built-in and Wi-Fi streaming service built into it, Wi-Fi receiver, etc., and so forth? All those details, and get it signed off by the project sponsor and say, this is what you want. Okay, so my team and I disappear for however long. We come back at the end of that time period and say, here, project sponsor, here's what you want. And say, okay, here's based on our agreement that we started off with way back when, here's what you got. And then project sponsor says, yep, that's what I asked for 6 months ago. And that's all fine and dandy, except that business needs change. And it might not be just the business need, it might be the business stakeholder, the project sponsor may change. They may move on to a new role and you find yourself, you have a new project sponsor. So the key thing to know is that we have Agile. Agile is more of an iterative approach. That means we take things down into chunks and work on it sequentially to build the product. So instead of the 6-month model where my team would grab the requirements and disappear and then come back and say, here you go, we would break it down in Agile into forms of what is called sprints. Sprints usually last 2 to 4 weeks, generally 2 weeks being the common period of time, where at the start of this whole endeavor, we'll have a sprint 0 meeting, which is basically it's kind of like in Waterfall where you're going and asking what do you want, but you break it down into what are called user stories, and you're saying, as a user, as a driver of this car, I want to be able to listen to the latest podcast from somebody. So, and then I, as the Scrum Master, because that is the title as a project manager you now will hold, because conceptually, again, that is a terminology thing. Technically, they're slightly different roles, but in most business worlds, they use them interchangeably. But that aside, you are asking them questions. You break it down into work flows. So, and then in each sprint, I'm meeting with the development team saying, okay, in this sprint, we are going to work on the doors. We're making them this blue teal color, and they're going to be power windows. They're going to also have locks so that nobody but the driver can roll down windows when the lock is engaged, etc., and so forth. And then we go through the sprint. At the end of the sprint, and we then show it to the stakeholder and say, okay, here's the doors. Is this, based on our understanding of what you told us, is this what you really want? And they can say, well, yeah, no, not really. I thought teal would be my color, but I really want a red. Give me a nice crimson red color. So we then plot that and say, okay, we're going to take it back. We're going to make our corrections and add it to the work stream and see, okay, well, we're going to do the chassis next. So we're going to work on your doors in a later sprint and we'll move it to the backlog. That's where stories that are not currently plotted for a sprint sit. So we then make our chassis come back and then say, okay, how does the chassis look based on our understanding of your requirements? And stakeholder can say, yes, that is exactly what I wanted, and signs off on the documentation saying yes. Or he or she can say, no, that's not really what I want something else. So, and then go through another discussion of what can we be doing. Some of the artifacts associated with each sprint is a daily stand-up meeting, which is generally held at the start of the day or shortly thereafter. But as its name implies, everyone is supposed to be standing up because this is supposed to be time boxed, which means it is supposed to have a definitive start and a definitive end, so we'll last it. Generally, in my experience, we've time boxed it to 15 minutes. And you as a Scrum Master have to make sure that it stays that way, because it is all too easy to let it go past the time. And people's time is valuable, and you have to respect that. So make sure that if the meeting does last only 15 minutes. And in each of those daily stand-up meetings, you'll be asking them, each person, what have you done? What will you be doing? And what impediments or blockers have you encountered? And then based off of that information, you can then work with each of those team members to figure out what that person needs in order to be getting past any of their blockers or impediments so that they can move forward and that you can keep on schedule. And then you do that each time, and then again, you'll have your presentation to the stakeholder and say, it's also generally called a demo. It's where you're showing it off to the stakeholder saying, this is what you asked for based on our understanding of the requirements. Is this what you want? Yes or no? And generally, you keep on doing this sprint iterative process, working on blocks, and then till you get to the complete product. At which point, then you get everyone happy, because it's not 6 months and then that you have disappeared and returned with a product that the business finds out that it doesn't need anymore. The business in Agile has been an active participant with the team every step of the way, where they've been engaged in getting feedback and giving feedback as to the status of their product, so that they make sure that at the end of the day, their product is exactly what they wanted. So now both styles are of value. You'll find waterfall to be used more in the terms of definitive, concrete, short-term projects where the likelihood of change to those requirements is minimal or non-existent. Whereas Agile focuses on variability. So in a month or two, you may find that the business needs to have changed, or you may have changed in a week. Agile can respond to that. Waterfall cannot. So that is why a lot of businesses are turning to Agile and its many flavors as opposed to Waterfall. But again, Waterfall still has its practitioners as well as its uses. So, and again, I can go on and on about the differences between the two, but I wanted to keep this just a kind of a general brief introduction into the two different types of project management that are currently being used in mainstream corporations today. So I hope this has been of value, and if it has, please like and subscribe to this video. As always, please have a great day. Bye-bye.